I don't think I've made any bones about it that I like LinkedIn as a platform, but I have some skepticism about LinkedIn or any big social media platform being a venue for community building. I think it's a little tough to do. My guest today, CLARENE Mitchell, is a LinkedIn maven, an expert extraordinaire who I've been following for a year or two now and have tremendous respect for her and the work that she's doing. I think we maybe have a little disagreement about this, and I'm looking forward to getting into it on the conversation today. Thank you for joining us on Talk About Your Community. Kalisa, let's roll the opening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you may happen to be. You've tuned into Talk About Your Community. I'm Todd Nilson with Clocktower Advisors, your host. And on this show, we talk to people from a variety of disciplines and perspectives about the topic of community building. Today is no exception. I am super excited to have my guest today, CLARENE Mitchell of TCM Communications. And she is an extraordinary LinkedIn expert whose wisdom and advice I've followed. She is an entrepreneur, superstar in the LinkedIn world. CLARENE, I am so honored to have you as a guest on the show. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Todd. I'm excited to be here and have this conversation with you and see where it goes. Thanks for the introduction, LinkedIn Maven. I've been called a lot of things in reference to what I do as a LinkedIn coach, but LinkedIn Maven may be new to the list, so I have to add that. Thank you. I like the sound of that.
Well, it's meant in all love and respect for what you do. I was one of the early users of LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, as I'm sure you were as well. And I'm a tough cookie to impress in this particular platform. And
Okay.
I can say, in all honesty, I have learned from you and have tremendous respect for all you've done and built within the space.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been a journey. The process of building my brand, my presence, my reputation, my community on LinkedIn. But I've enjoyed the journey and looking forward to sharing some of that with your audience today.
I appreciate that so much. And I would be remiss if I didn't begin today by saying I'm so appreciative of you as a guest and of you as an entrepreneur and as a Black woman business owner who's doing amazing things on International Community Day, International Women's Day. International Women's Day.
Yes.
I had a short circuit in my brain there for a second, but happy International Women's Day. Thank you so much for all the role modeling you do and all the great things you're doing. I'm fortunate to have many amazing women coworkers in the community building space and within my circle of people who I consider, guides, mentors, friends, in this work. And so I just wanted to start out the conversation by saying that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So you and I first connected, I think, through a friend, Jasmine, who was running We Exist community, which was a Milwaukee-based community for entrepreneurs of color in the Milwaukee marketplace. And I think it came about during the pandemic. You were one of the guests on the show. I was sort of one of the guys hanging around in the background, but I became an ardent follower of your content and all that you do at that time. And as a community builder, as somebody who's active on LinkedIn on a day-to-day basis, thinking about big social media platforms versus what I'll consider small social media, like the kinds of online communities that I live and work in every day. Things ranging from Slack instances or Discords or discussion forums or private social media kinds of experiences, things like Chorus or Higher Logic. The relationship between these kinds of platforms and the scale of these platforms is something I have on my mind a lot day to day. And so, having this conversation with you, having an exchange of ideas and thoughts.
We're not going to use the D word.
No. And I think to give you a little context around this, so one of the things that's been a topic of interest in community world, if you want to think of it that way, has been the idea of community everywhere. You need to be where your interested and engaged audience happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a complex relationship with this because I am a believer in LinkedIn. I think it's powerful. I think I've made lots of friends. I've done a lot of networking, through the platform as well. But when it comes to community building, the ability to share vulnerably in an online space, and in a way that is in an audience where you can assume the benevolence of everybody in that space, I think it can be a lot harder to do in a big social space. And I think this is where we're going to end up having some fun discussion about it. And I would love to get your perspective on this. And I would love to have my mind changed about it as well, because I think I'm open. I'm not intractable in my positions about things, but I genuinely want to learn, what you think about it.
So, and let me apologize in advance if I sneeze. Allergies are really like at height right now for me. And so I'm
No worries.
starting to wipe my eyes, and there may be a random sneeze here or there. But so even in reference to the smaller, so to speak, platforms you refer to, I don't like Slack and Discord, and I don't even use those platforms because of my love for LinkedIn and how I've been able to leverage the platform. And perhaps you're on the fence about the viability of LinkedIn for community building, not just you and others, because it's all about, I say, how you use the platform, not necessarily the platform itself. A lot of times people, they get frustrated with LinkedIn and don't get traction or gain or results from the platform. And they get frustrated and think it's the platform. And it's not really the platform. It's just the need to adapt to how LinkedIn works, right? And how to work it effectively versus quite often, a lot of times people do what they do on other platforms and try to replicate that on LinkedIn, and that doesn't work because LinkedIn is very unique. It's more of a specialized platform where it has its own or unique rules of engagement, so to speak, or ways of operating. And it's understanding that to be able to get that traction on the platform or that results, or get to the point like me where you love the platform and you gravitate to the platform and you really stand out. For me, the community building process of LinkedIn is a part of why I fell in love with the platform and why I have it as my exclusive focus for my business, because of how, yes, it's big. Like, so now LinkedIn has over 1 billion members. It's huge, right? And it's just not, in the United States, it's a global platform. But that's a part of why I love it, because yes, I've been able to build community, local, national, and internationally, because of my presence on the platform. And you said a word that I loved because it's one of my big themes on the platform: being authentic. It's not where, because LinkedIn is for professional business purposes, that we can be authentic. We can bring ourselves to the platform. It doesn't mean we have to be cold and real rigid and conservative and all of that. No, we're going to build that community, and people are going to connect. I see your face, Todd. Here we go. People are going to connect with us more when we are authentic. If you follow me, Todd, so or any of your viewers follow me for any length of time, they will see I'm a open book self on the platform.
I know you are.
People know my journey personally. People know my journey. When I relocated from Milwaukee to Tulsa, Oklahoma, people knew about that. When I went through my divorce, people knew about that. Highs and lows of my life, because we are not just working beings, so to speak. Our whole lives impact what we do professionally, business wise. And it's through that sharing is how people connect with me, because that resonates with them, the content resonates with them. And it's through that, then the relationship building process happens, the community building process happens, whether they're in the shadows, just following me in the background and not ever engaging, reacting, or leaving comments, or whether, it's more direct, or they're sending me DMs, like, keep it going, Clarene,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. And then that does translate to business outcomes as well. So, and I know that was a mouthful, and you just
No. But I got a glint in my eye when I heard you use the operative word "can be authentic" in the space, and I take your point there that it's about how you use the tool,
right.
and how you choose to draw that line, about how much of yourself you're sharing within those online spaces. I worry that that just to kind of continue our kind, exchange of ideas here. I worry about that performative element of being in an online space, that you're conscious of being on stage, and so you construct that persona of who you are in that space, that has an impact on how authentic you can maybe be. And I don't want to put too fine a point on that, but I think
no, I want to stay there. So talk more when you say performative, because when I say authentic, like when I hear you say authentic, it reminds me, performative, it reminds me of an actor or actress getting on stage and stepping into a character, right? That's not themselves, but they're stepping into a character, right? When I say authentic on LinkedIn, it's not performative for me or for my clients when I teach them to lean into that. It's being their authentic selves, it's bringing their full selves to the platform at whatever level of comfortability they may have with that. And it can be risky, being vulnerable, open ourselves up. That's a risky endeavor, right? Especially on a platform like LinkedIn. But nothing ventured, nothing gained, right?
And I'm the first to cop to the fact that I have a line that I draw about how much I'm comfortable sharing in online spaces.
I do too, believe it or not. I do too. I don't share everything of my life.
And I have no qualms about flying my geek flag and sharing my love of Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop role playing games and comic books,
Right.
and all. Like, I lean hard into nerd culture. That's been my life since a kid in the 80s, and that part of my life is very open. But and where I live, like, how proud I am of living in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and I never make any bones about that, because those are things that are signals of identity and things that I value, that I think are fun to share, that might be conversation starters,
right.
that might lead to to that. Do I share things about my family or my personal life? Usually not. That's not stuff that I usually bring to the fore, unless I think there's something relevant to share.
That's the point, though. Like, you don't. When I say be authentic on a platform, I don't say that to do it just randomly to gain traction. There has to be the relevancy to our professional business lives, right? So it's always, even when I share, there's that context that I put to it, that professional business context that I put to the personal sharing. It's not just a random. I'm going to share two examples recently of two, unfortunately, LinkedIn community friends who have been struggling with cancer and sharing their journeys on LinkedIn openly, and how they've been absent from the platform as of late because they needed to focus on their personal selves, their health, right? Their health mattered more than showing up consistently on the platform, right? The relevancy, again, to the professional business nature of the platform, but yet still that took a lot of courage for both of them to make those posts and share.
Absolutely.
But yet, because they had the courage to do that, the community came forward for them in support, right? Cheering them on, offering support online and offline.
I will say, I think that of all the big social platforms that are out there, LinkedIn does feel to me like the most benevolent of them.
Okay.
that, that is just in terms of people's willingness to help, people's
Right.
willingness to share,
Mhm.
and I think there's a considerable incentive to behave well on this platform compared to
Compared
many
to others, yes.
compared to others that are
Mhm.
out there. Not to
Mhm.
say that there's never anything, you know, not nice that goes on.
It
You know,
happens, but it's not as frequent, I say, as it will be on other platforms.
yeah.
Mm.
Was that something that was behind your decision to really kind of go all in the LinkedIn world? I'm kind of curious about sort of for you the moment where it kind of clicked that like, "Ah, this is where I want to invest, in my profession and my work."
Sure. And actually, so when I first started my business, it wasn't me being all in on LinkedIn. It was because prior to me starting my business, I was a print journalist and public relations, community relations professional. So when I started my business, it was broad PR and inclusive of most of the major social media platforms as far as coaching. But I zoned in quickly to LinkedIn, one for the fact that, the phrase niches, there's riches and niches, right? You
Yep.
can't, as
Yep.
a solopreneur, I there's value in having a specialty versus being all over the place, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Especially building a brand and people being able to quickly identify, okay, that's the LinkedIn lady versus that's the LinkedIn and this and this and this and that, lady, because I was
Yeah,
doing press
absolutely.
releases, crisis communications, and then social media. And it's like, oh no. But the biggest reason is because LinkedIn, it's such a specialized platform and there's such a huge gap with people understanding and taking advantage of the platform. I just saw a wide open opportunity, there being a gap, there being a void with people, really understanding it. Like, you can get on the other platforms pretty much and do whatever, right?
Mhm.
That's not the same case or true for LinkedIn. And there's so much attention given to those other platforms and so many other people who specialize in those platforms, but very few who specialize on this platform, on LinkedIn specifically. But yet the returns, the rewards, the ROI from LinkedIn is so much greater. So
Mhm.
that's a
Mhm.
part of, yeah, this is where I need to focus on.
I love it. I love it. So, thank you for sharing that. That's great. I'm thinking a little bit about uh, how we might approach, and I'm not going to get into discussions of features. You're going to stay well away from that field because that's why somebody would want to hire you, to help you figure out that approach. But for somebody that has decided they want to build community on the LinkedIn platform, the advantages that you see to this particular platform, you got into that a little bit. But if they were starting from scratch, what what advice would you have at a really high level to give somebody as far as their start?
To start.
To start. Start.
That's first thing, to start.
Start. Oh, got it.
Get the process started. Don't stay on the fences. Don't over deliberate, about it. Just do it. And don't do it with ulterior motivations, so to speak, or okay, with necessarily, okay, I want to get on LinkedIn because, okay, if you're an entrepreneur and I need, with the false expectations or unrealistic expectations that I want to get on LinkedIn, build community so that I can get clients next week or next
Mhm,
month,
mhm.
or,
Short
understanding
term.
that
Right.
the
Yeah.
process, LinkedIn is a social selling platform, right? Meaning it's all about cultivating quality professional business relationships, and that takes time.
Mhm,
And quite often, a lot of people, they want the quick returns, right? Versus being able to invest in the long term process of LinkedIn. But when you invest in the long term process of LinkedIn, you get the quality results at
mhm,
a much higher level. So getting started and then getting moving forward in the process and giving it the time that it needs, right? So, because even with content, it's, you got to provide that value. And even with the relationship process, it can't be one-sided, right?
Absolutely.
So just like relationships in our personal world, right? It takes time to develop that rapport, to develop that trust, to develop that connectivity. We have to give the same time and attention on LinkedIn without having those ulterior motives or being that, salesy person in the DM. No, we have to invest in it. Community building, right? It's two-sided, right? Two-sided.
Amen. Amen. Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's not a one directional process. It goes both ways. And so we have to invest that time and effort and be genuine in that process. Right.
Yeah. You mentioned sales messages in the direct sales messages. It has gotten to be a real plague.
Right.
I
Yeah.
used to be open. I used to be open to anybody messaging me, and I had to turn that off to connections only, because it became untenable for me to even just like I used to even send back like, hey, stop pitch slapping me. Here's
Right.
an article on the whole thing.
Right. A
Please,
snarky message back. Yeah.
please engage with me as a human being. Like I'm not a number for you to be hitting.
Right. Right.
And so I very much take that to heart. And you're right. I think so much about the way that the platform is being used. I feel like there's sort of a global education in digital literacy that's happening right now, and it's not happening fast enough for my liking.
Right.
Where people are learning that you can't just kind of spray and pray messages out there. That's not what's going to get people to reply. I'm reading a book right now by Brendan Kane, Hook Point, where he's talking a lot about having that relevant message, and being able to have a strong lead, when you post something that you think is going to resonate, with your audience. If you're not genuinely trying to connect with somebody on, in an area that they care about, you're not going to get those responses. You're not going to get that interaction that you were talking about. You don't get that person to person.
Right. They're providing value that will resonate with your target audience. That's the whole key with that. And even, like you said, with the DMs, if I've never had, and I track people who engage with my content in an authentic way, not a ways where I can see, like, there's times when people, they'll randomly go through my profile and react to a lot of posts.
Yeah.
Or they'll leave some comments and then they'll send me a DM. And I'm like, I still don't care about you, because I can tell that it was, that was their whole focus to get my attention. It wasn't genuine. It wasn't, authentic over a course of time. So if someone sends me a DM, because again, I'm always keeping track mentally and, otherwise, with people who, especially the people who leave comments on my post, those are the people who are gonna get attention from me. Even if I may not be at the point where I want to do business with them, they're still gonna get a respectful response from me if they DM me, because there's someone that I've had a track record with or a history with on the platform. But if you're coming from nowhere, I don't know you, there's been no authentic engagement, there's been no credible history, forget it. Like, I don't.
Yeah. And I will say, like, when I see you post and the interactions that people have with you, and you're always like right there in it with them, you always respond back. You're a role model for me on that. And you respond back in a substantial way, not just a hey, thanks for the comment, kind of thing. It's always, there's always something that you add to it, and that I think is sort of like the learning point for me, as I sort of look at whether it's direct messages or other social posts that come out. When my radar immediately goes off when I see somebody that's just sort of like, hey, you look like a great professional, thank you for your excellent profile, these very ham-fisted attempts to try to connect with me when it's clear they didn't read one iota of anything I've ever written.
Smooth or impress you. I have one better for you, Todd. how about this? And this has happened multiple times. I'm like, oh my goodness, get a clue, people. People who send me DMs and ask, people who clearly have not looked at my profile because they're pushing their LinkedIn services. I'm a LinkedIn coach and trainer and ghostwriter,
Mhm.
but yet my profile is very clear of who I am and what I do, right? So it is so obvious right from the beginning. Oh, they didn't even take time to look at my profile. They're pushing their services, which is the services I do, is hysterical to me because then I look at their profile and their profile is so not impressive. But yet I'm
Yeah.
supposed to have faith in you to do business
Yes.
with you? Like,
Yes. Yes. You've
no.
got, let's see. Wow. You've got like 50 connections and a ghost profile. No, thank you. I don't think so. Right.
Exactly. Right. But yet you look at mine. If they would have looked at mine, they should have been like trying to get me to help them versus
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
way around. But
Or
yeah,
like, and while we're on that topic of sort of like the fakery sort of approaches that people have, like the other one that sort of kills me lately is what seems on the surface like a genuine attempt to interact with me, but it's asking me a question like if they looked at my background, they would immediately be able to know. Like, so
right.
they'll do a quick introduction. Hey, I hope you don't mind reaching out to me. I'm like, no, I don't mind you reaching out to me. But I was wondering, what is the biggest struggle with your business right now? And I'm like, I don't know you. Like, I might talk to you at a networking event in a
Right.
person-to-person context around that, but there's sort
Right.
of like this
It's a
assumed
bait.
level of
It's a bait.
familiarity.
They're trying to reel you in
Yeah.
question by question instead of the direct pitch slap that is the direct, right from the beginning. It's like hooking you in with these real quick questions
Yeah.
or people just send me a DM, hi. Like, okay, don't waste
Yes.
my time. Like,
Rhetorically, it's very disingenuous, right? Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Like, because I sit back and I'm like, I see where you're going with this.
Ex-
I know
Exactly.
what's going to unwind from this. And if I call you on it, then I seem like the jerk for doing it, right? But
Let it be then.
yeah,
Then I'm the
yeah.
jerk. I'm okay with that. Generally, with those people who, because I go through everybody's profiles before I accept their connection invite. I never just randomly accept connection invites. I always go through and vet their profiles. I have certain criteria that I use to do that. And so there's sometimes when people slip through that, that
Mhm.
criteria that I have, and they'll send, as soon as I accept, they'll send me the salesy message. Then I go right back and I disconnect, remove them from my connections. Because it's like, nope,
Yep. Yep.
this is not how I operate on the platform. Nope.
Who's got time for that? Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
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 Yeah. Well, I appreciate that perspective quite a bit, quite a bit. Um, so tell me a little bit about what you're excited about right now. Like what's professionally giving you energy at the moment. I'd love to hear a little bit about your world.
Oh my. What's giving me energy is the fact that LinkedIn is over and this happened in December of 2023, but reaching November or December, but reaching a 1 billion, and that
November.
LinkedIn is growing and that there's more synergy and energy on the platform, more content creation, more engagement, the new features and tools that are coming out. And if I can flip that a little, what isn't giving me excitement is the AI process on
Ask
LinkedIn.
about that. Yeah. Yes.
Let's get into it. So I'm loving, the more activity because historically less than 1% of LinkedIn members would create content on a consistent basis. So I appreciate the more activity, that's on the platform, but
Mhm.
I'm not excited about a lot of activity or people that are even the platform leaning into AI. I'm very much a fan of human centric aspect of LinkedIn, content creation wise and engagement wise and profile optimization wise.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the two-sided response to your question.
Yeah, there is stress around that whole idea of AI and automation. I'm personally not a big fan of automation, but I am very interested in large language models and sort of how they can be used to help us work, maybe faster and better in some ways. I think I pay attention to the research that's been coming out, like with Harvard Business Review had a really interesting piece that stuck with me around, I think they call it the jagged frontier of like, we're negotiating like what humans versus AI are better at or faster at doing. And, but it's an invisible frontier. We don't, we're still figuring out what those things look like, but there's been such a gold rush, and LinkedIn has not been immune to the charms of AI to just try to get AI into the platform experience in different ways. And I'm not convinced that it's worked really well at this point.
Yeah. I'm not even.
I don't want you to talk bad about it.
Well, yeah. Hey, again, I'm authentic and transparent and I've made posts about this. I am very much a part of the human-centric perspective of LinkedIn. There's the process with generative AI prompts. I've taken a position of not engaging in that process, which means I've not been in the running, so to speak, for a LinkedIn top voice, and I'm okay with that, because any designation that I get, I'd rather it be based on me and what's coming from here, not based on a process that's really flawed in many ways, because people are approaching it from a very opportunistic, gimmicky way versus how the standard used to be years ago when I really became active and focused on this platform. It used to be getting the LinkedIn top voice was very coveted because it was a very
took some work to do.
Right. And the criteria was very solid, even though it wasn't expressed, it wasn't public, rather. It was a criteria versus people who I know are just gaming the system, because if you just repeatedly respond to those prompts, you can get in line for having that badge. And this is not in disrespect to everyone who has, because there's some quality, very respected people who have the badge that I follow. But I know also on the flip side, many people who have gamed the system.
Yeah. Anytime there is a game element that's built into an online platform, people will attempt to game that system. Even looking at things like SEO on Google, all the shenanigans that people have played over the years to get placement, keyword stuffing, black hat tactics. There's black hat tactics for LinkedIn as well. And unfortunately, some people have at least temporarily prospered by that. I wanted to share one of our listeners, just a quick shout out to Joe Narussis and Amanda Martinati. Amanda, her opinion is that AI is not going to last much longer. I don't know
Amanda, I don't know you, Amanda, but that statement right there has given me life. I love you, Amanda. Thank you. But let's see how long that goes, how much, because it's such a slippery slope, but how far that will go on LinkedIn. Because again, Microsoft owns LinkedIn, and because of just it being a prioritized process, and maybe it is going back to, as I say, historically, only 1% of users had been doing content. Now this accelerates with the use of AI, accelerates that process. But wouldn't you rather want content to be directly from that person, know that it's directly from that person, versus content that they, fed into an app and then, regurgitated that information back out? But I hope that's true, Amanda. Thank you.
I'll take a contrarian position on that. I do hope it sticks around, but I think we'll learn. I hope that we'll learn how to use it better. Going forward. I will admit to some heavy frustration with, and I've used Gemini and Claude and ChatGPT, pretty extensively for some time now. Sometimes
now you tell me this time.
No, as a sounding board for things that I do, but I've been increasingly frustrated in recent months with even trying to use it as a writing aid, because the problem with its stylistically is not, I feel that I can spot it in the wild. Like anytime someone has used AI
In the
to
wild.
write something,
Hmm.
and it's not coming through as an authentic voice, and it's because these things are trained large language models based on the world's most likely choice to
Hmm.
respond to a particular set of prompts. I feel like it's not like it felt like it worked better in the earlier days of it than it does
Hmm.
now. And I don't know if that's a matter of us getting more cynical about it or what.
Or
Um,
it's just the junk, too much junk is in there. Like, so AI overall, like there's a place and value for AI
mhm.
overall in our lives, but just my conversation or my comments about AI is specific to the content creation process. And
Yeah.
maybe it's just because I'm an old school print journalist, writer,
Yeah.
and just
Same.
the
Yeah.
joy in the process of the story writing, elements of it, and how people, no offense to people, anyone, but the lazy approach as opposed to leaning into our brains and what we can create and be unique, provide that unique perspective and information with, versus using these tools to do that. There's a place for AI, most definitely, in
Mhm.
other aspects of our lives that I, benefit, from as well. But when it comes to content creation, especially on LinkedIn, I pause and I get concerned because, again, so going back to what I said before, LinkedIn, the core foundation of LinkedIn is a social selling platform. To me, that's in total opposite, polarized from AI. Social
Mhm.
selling is people connecting with people. That's not what AI is. That's AI connecting to people. That's not people connecting to
Right.
people. And so, yeah, I struggle with the intersection of the two because, yeah, it's not
The,
mathing.
the,
It's not adding up to me.
those human level connections, the high touch nature of what a platform like this is and could be, is muddied by wondering, like, was this content just created by AI to get a rise out of me, right?
Hmm. Right,
Yeah.
right. Yep.
Um, wonderful insights. Absolutely. I will continue to use it to overcome blank page syndrome from time to time, and as a proofreader. But
Mhm.
I will keep fighting with it as well. But you're absolutely right. I think it's difficult. You and I are a little different because I think we've both been trained writers in the work that we do, and so
It's hard fighting what we have. And left a comment on a post the other day, or was back and forth with comments with someone. And that's what I essentially said, how it's hard just getting out of my head what my professors, what my instructors in college drilled into me, the
yeah.
core components. And I still have my college books on my bookshelf here. Like the core components of writing, of communication, that I just can't dismiss and just throw away, and I get concerned that now, like, people are not learning those core components when it comes to writing, when it comes to communication, when it comes to language overall, because of, the rapid advancement of AI, right? And the abbreviation kind of society we're in because of social media. So if, my long form posts don't perform well, I'm okay with that, because
Mhm.
to me it's still providing value, and it's still me being true to me. And it's more about the quality versus the numbers to a great extent.
There's a term that I've come across. I can't remember if I'm getting the person right. Cal Newport, I think, has a newsletter that I was following where
Mm.
he talks about slow productivity. And I think
Mm.
we have this perception of, man, I really got to rush fast. I got to get the next piece of content out. I got to write this. It's just so overwhelming. I got to do all these things. The stress levels go up and up and up and up and up. But we might do better if we just pause and think and
Right.
write one good post?
Quality over quantity. I tell my clients that in a lot of ways regarding LinkedIn, whether it's the number of connections we have, whether it's the content, whether it's the analytics, it's better. And even LinkedIn has moved in this direction when it comes to recent changes is made with the algorithm. And it being more about substance and how much value we're providing in our content, and how on the back end the algorithm is triggered based upon the value we're providing and how people are engaging with that in an authentic way. How it does it, that gets too nerdy for me and too much into the science and technology, but leaning into that, being more about quality versus quantity. When LinkedIn latter part of 2023, and it's continuing now, where the big change with the algorithm and there being a huge dip in impressions we would see with posts, and how, for many people was like red flags, like, okay, LinkedIn is just not working anymore. No, the opposite, where LinkedIn is working, but in a higher quality kind of way, where again the focus is on quality versus quantity.
Yeah, amen. I love that perspective immensely. Um, it's hard to believe we've shot through almost 45 minutes of
What?
conversation here. Yeah,
Already?
already, yeah.
Wow.
And wow, I want one of those spiffy LinkedIn mugs. That looks really cool.
Oh, there's a process to getting these.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. Clarine, thank you so much for bringing your
Mhm.
insights and thoughtful approach to the world of LinkedIn, and for complicating my thinking about community building.
Okay, so wait a minute, Todd. Have we moved the needle for you mentally about LinkedIn and community building? If not, like, what else do we need to get into before we end this? Like,
It's a fair question. I'm going to need to mull this over a little bit, but I think for me, like the big takeaway point that you had was it's about how you use the platform. I fully agree with that. And
can I give you an exhibit A that we've not been able to get into?
of course, yes.
You can't see it as well, very well, maybe, but I want to show this so this is the back cover of my LinkedIn book that I published in 2019 rather.
Okay.
I devoted the back of my book to key members of my LinkedIn community, highlighting them as evidence, or, responding to this whole conversation we're having now here in 2024 about the community building nature of LinkedIn. Individuals so some of these are local people, but others are people who I built relationships with on the platform that are across the country. I still haven't met personal face to face. This individual still, Melvin Tan in Singapore, that I consider a very dear friend of mine. But in my early time of being present on LinkedIn, we connected and forged a great relationship, right? Even Michelle McCoy Mack, another dear friend across the country who I met on LinkedIn, or even here with Adon Arani, who's in Canada. I got my first international client from him because he referred that person to me. And he, at that time, was in the shadows on LinkedIn, not even engaging in my content, but in the shadows, following my content, building respect and rapport with me, and referred someone to me because of the community building aspect. So I wanted, before we ended, I had to share this is exhibit A of the power of community building on the platform. It happens. It's all about how we use the platform.
And I think that's a great note to end things on. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. I'm going to think more about building my community on the platform here as well, and with your good graces, I'll continue to learn from you and through your example on LinkedIn. Clarine, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you in your community.
Thank you. And for those of you who are watching live, thank you for tuning in and for your comments. I know the chat was fairly active, during our conversation here. We do this LinkedIn Live every other Friday, and through the able work of my friend and coworker Kalisa Mickle, who lines up guests and handles the background of the show. She's always there, and very celebratory and supportive of her work and all that she's done to build her own solopreneur business. I hope that you can tune in 2 weeks. CLARENE, you're going to love this. My guest is going to be James Finister, and we're going to be talking about ethics, regulation, and the reality of AI.
Oh, okay. Let me mark that on my calendar.
It's going to be a fun one. So it'll be same bat time, same bat channel. 2 weeks Friday. I'm dating myself with that reference, but 2 weeks Friday, 10 a.m. U.S. Central Time. Hope you're able to join us for that. In the meantime, I hope that you take some time, take care of yourselves, and keep building great communities. Kalisa, let's roll the credits and have a great weekend, everybody.